Welcome to an alphabet of fairy from Tales of Fae and Folk, and this time we have the letter G. In this snippet of folklore we will look at the Glaistig, the Grim and Gwillion. The Glaistig is a Scottish fairy, the name deriving from the Gaelic glas, meaning grey, and stig, meaning little creeping thing. She is a small fairy woman, dressed in green with long yellow hair that falls to her feet, and yet her skin is grey and sickly looking in colour. On the Isle of Skye she has a different appearance. Here she is dressed in white, tall and slim, and it is said she has goat-like legs and hooves beneath her dress. This fairy woman isn't really a fairy woman at all, though. She is actually a human woman who is under the spell of the fairies and who has been gifted fairy power. She is strong. Even her cry and shout in times of sadness will flow across the landscape and echo among the mountains. She is a solitary figure, unless accompanied by one of her children, and it is said she haunts castles, homes, and animal pens. Although she detests dogs, and should you wish to keep her out of your home, having a pet dog will help, as will putting a shoemaker's awl by the front door. She can be found in these places doing the work of servants, herding cattle to pasture as dusk falls, or coming to the farm for payment for a bowl of milk. Sometimes they can be seen resting on rocks, all in the warm sunlight. There are many beliefs about the natures of the Glaistig. As with all fairies, her temperament can change just like the weather, and for this reason human villagers dread coming across her. Rumour had it that she could be nasty, or even vampiric, or drown people lost near rivers and lakes. One tale tells that she met a weaver on his way home. One night as he was passing nearby a stream, she beat the man soundly, holding him in the water as she did so, saying he was better for being washed. There is another tale told of a Glaistig who was captured by a blacksmith who lived near Inverness. He held her hostage until she carried out his demand. He wanted a whole herd of fairy cattle for himself. She summoned her powers and the herd arrived. He had another demand before he would let her go. The man demanded a house to be built that no fairy or supernatural creature could ever enter. Once more she summoned her power, and fairy creatures rose from all around, and within that one night alone they built the man his home as demanded. Finally he agreed to honour his promise. He let her go and held out his hand to shake, which she reached to take. And as she went to take his hand, he pushed a bar of iron into her fist, and as we know, iron is a metal deadly to the fairies. She screamed and fled, but she died on the hill of Finisgaig, and to this very day the plants there are found stained red. The Grim is a goblin creature from England known to screech like an owl at the windows of sick people. This name is very common across England for denoting wicked fairies and is reflected in many place names such as Grimsdyke and Grimley among others. Grimmer was one of the titles of the god Odin, meaning masked or hooded. He was wont to wander among mortals disguised this way, and it is thought that this folk memory came down to fairy lore, folklore of something other, and because of the fear of Norse raiders, something frightening and sinister, that became the name of a goblin. Gwillion are malicious mountain fairies from the country of Wales, frightening-looking hag fairies who can lead walkers through the mountains to their doom. In a place called Llanhidel, there is a fairy of this type called the Woman of the Mountain. She has the form of an old, wizened woman wearing a four-cornered hat. Her clothes are the colour of ashes, and she carries a pot on her head. She jumps up to frighten unwary travellers, shouting, "Wow up!" Anyone who hears this or sees her will be lost to the human world forever. These old fairies wander the mountains of Wales, herding their goats on the fairy Sabbath on Wednesdays, and on these days they stop and groom their animals, combing their splendid beards. The Gwillion detest humankind, luring them to their deaths or simply staring at them malevolently. It was believed that these fairy creatures could once fly, but how or why they lost this gift is just not known. They have an intense fear of the storms that whip across the Welsh mountains and will seek shelter in any huts they can find. As with the majority of fairies, they also have a fear of metal, and it is said that if you can back one into a corner with an iron implement, you can force them to give you a wish. However, this really is not advised, as the whole tribe will hate you forever, and you will never ever be able to travel safely through the Welsh mountains again. The writer Evan Thomas once came across a Gwillion in the mountains. A whole tribe surrounded him. A horn sounded, the sound of rushing hoofbeats, invisible hunters rushing by. Terrified, he pulled out his knife, and at that very second the whole fairy madness stopped. They are spoken of many times in Welsh poetry, often used to denote a creature allowed to return from death for a time, a type of ghost. In the village of Aberystwyth, the people there would offer shelter to the Gwillion on stormy nights, offering them clean water and taking the greatest care that no knife or sharp tool should go near them, for fear of harming them or bringing about their anger. I hope you enjoyed this time's telling of tales. Take care, brightest of blessings, and remember, don't play with the fairy folk, or you may end up in one of my folk tales yourself.